scary stories. I graduated from high school in 2009, and a couple of friends decided that we should go camping. Funny enough, I almost didn't go because my friend Derek was dating a girl named Brittany, and he wanted to bring her along. I could not stand her. She came from a family with money and had a nice body, blah blah blah. I wasn't upset at that. It was her attitude. That I'm better than everyone else. Worship me. You know what I mean. He was dating her because she was hot. Simple as that. I'm so glad I went. I might not like her, but if I hadn't gone, who knows what would have happened. My Nana always trusted my judgment, so she didn't even worry about me going. Derek's parents knew me, and my friend Rachel were going, but not Brittany. His mom wouldn't let us go if she did, because I'm a mom, not an idiot. Rachel's mom was fine with it because I was with her. She actually doesn't like camping, but she had recently broken up with her boyfriend, so I told her that it would help her clear her head. So off we went. Originally we were going to go to a campsite, but instead we went into the middle of the woods. Yes, me and my friends were dumbasses. Day one was fine. We hung out, ate, and then we had to listen to this loving couple that night. The next morning I get up and drag Rachel with me to grab wood. By that I mean she picks it up and I carry all of it. LOL. Suddenly I get a strange feeling and I hear a branch snap. I turn. There is some guy standing there. I just stare at him, and finally he smiles and waves. Rachel and this guy, Adam, hit it off right away. He seems nice enough. I'm feeling a little standoffish but act friendly. I'm not very trusting of people. He tells us how he and his family have been camping for a couple of weeks and how we should come meet them. Rachel, who is single now and hates it, says, "Let's go." Oh, I hate her. Where my friends go, I go. I tell her we should drop off the wood first, and without asking, he follows us back to the campsite. I hear Derek and Brittany having sex. Rachel says, just leave them. So we head over to Adam's campsite. The first thing I notice is the sheer amount of shit around their site. This doesn't look like a site of people staying for a couple of weeks, but months. I don't say anything as he introduces us to his mother, father, and little brother. They were all very friendly and welcoming. Rachel was very happy with all the attention. I should feel happy. No, I'm growing more and more paranoid. The mother and father are being overly touchy and feely. The mother keeps touching my hair, saying how pretty and soft it is, and how she wishes she had hair like mine. I'm named after a bird, and she lovingly gives me the nickname Pretty Bird. I do not like that name, but I say nothing, just smile. The father isn't much better. He makes a comment about how nice my body is, that it looks real sturdy. Says most girls are too thin nowadays. I'm kinda shocked that his wife is saying nothing about this. He asks me to flex my arm. I do, and he starts to feel my arm up. What the hell? I just want to leave at this point, but Rachel keeps gabbing with Adam. I ask about all the trash, etc. laying around, and say, "Aren't you worried about the bears?" The father laughs and says, "Oh, no, we have guns." Oh, goody. Finally, I'm able to tell her that we should head back. Adam offers to walk us back, but I manage to brush him off. As we are walking, I tell her I don't like any of them. Well, the little brother was okay, but the rest, ugh. She tells me I'm just being paranoid and that I just hate them because they are nice. Not everyone that acts nice has an ulterior motive. I'm livid. I tell her, stop thinking with your clit, and that there is much more to life than cock. Yeah, it wasn't a good walk back. I am so pissed at this point. I tell Derek that we are sharing a tent. Brittany starts to argue with me, but I gave her the scary eyes, as Derek puts it, so I sleep with him that night. I was going to talk to him about the family, but he passed out before I could. The next morning, Rachel and Brittany aren't talking to me, which I'm fine with. Honestly, I just want to get this trip over with and go home. That's when Adam randomly shows up. He says his family is making a late breakfast. I don't want to go, so of course, we all go. We eat, and I don't bother to hide the fact that I'm irritable, but I couldn't say no to the little brother when he asked me if I would play checkers with him. After a while, Derek and Brittany head back to the campsite so we can take her to Frisco Town. Rachel says I don't have to wait for her. I tell her I'm staying just to spite her. After a while, I hint that we should go, but she keeps ignoring me. Adam hands me an open soda at one point, asking me if I want it. I say no thanks. I do not drink open sodas from strangers. But Rachel does, of course. It gets worse. The mother brings out beer. What? I tell her we're underage. She says she's not that much of a hard ass, that she lets the boys drink a little sometimes. I say no thanks. Rachel doesn't. Rachel is a tiny little thing, so it doesn't take much for her to get drunk. But I can tell it's different this time. Something is very, very wrong here. I tell them we should go. I grab her and notice she's having a hard time moving. I put her on my back so I can piggyback her. The mother actually says she can stay here for the night. I say it's best if she sticks with us. They keep pushing it, and I was suddenly worried they wouldn't let us leave. Finally, I'm able to leave. Not even halfway there, Rachel is passed out. Oh my god. Did they roofie her? When I get back, I put Rachel in her tent and tell Derek I need to talk to him. He grumbles at me, but comes out. I let it all out. At first he thinks I'm just being overprotective, paranoid self. But when I say that he must have noticed, and the booze and the fact that Rachel is passed out, it sinks in. He asks me what we should do. I tell him it's too late to do anything right now. We will head out tomorrow. I tell him that we will make some excuse and not to tell Rachel or Brittany. They will both say I'm paranoid and will fight us. We go to bed and don't sleep well. The next morning we wake up and wait for the girls to get up. Finally they do. As we are drinking some coffee, I ask Rachel if she's okay. She says yeah. Just feels tired and she doesn't remember anything after drinking. After sitting around for a little while, I tell them that Derek's dad wants us to come home a little early. Brittany is happy. Rachel is not. She asks if we could postpone it a little longer. I say no. He really needs us back. I tell them we should pack today. Suddenly, I notice Derek staring behind me. I turn, and walking out of the woods is Adam. He wants us all to come over, and Rachel mentions that I want us to pack because we have to leave. He acted very disappointed and asked if we can stay a little longer. I say no. After a while, I tell Derek to go ahead to their campsite without me. I'll pack up some of the stuff myself. I don't want him knowing we have the care part. When they leave, I get most of the personal shit in the car, but leave the camping stuff out. When I get to their site, I can tell that Derek wants to leave. I mentioned that we should get to the bed early because we have to leave early. Rachel says we should just leave later in the day. I say no. When she keeps arguing with me, I pull out the big guns. I'll call your mom if you don't stop fighting with me. I didn't want to use that, but I have to get her away from this freak show. Suddenly, sweet, funny Adam snaps. He gets in my face and says I'm not her mother, and that I can't tell her what to do. I get right in his face and tell him to back off. The father calms things down by saying that friends shouldn't fight. After that, we leave. Rachel is in tears and won't speak to me. I feel like shit. I figured me and Derek can tell her when we leave why I've been acting like an ass. I sleep with Derek that night. I pass out cold. I think I can sleep well because I'll never have to see the family again. I wake up, which isn't that strange because I have always had trouble staying asleep. But that's why I woke up. It's because I can hear someone walking around the campsite. I wake up Derek. I whisper to him that I think the family isn't happy about us leaving. He is freaked, and so am I. We get dressed as quickly as we can. I grab the mini shovel, and he grabs the hatchet. I tell him we need to run as soon as I get the girls up. I slowly open the tent. I look out. I can't see anything in the moonlight. I slowly crawl out and open the girls' tents. I wake them both up and order them to get dressed. Brittany starts to loudly yell at me, but I cover her mouth. I tell them we will talk about this later when we get out of here, but right now they needed to listen to me. Derek peeks in and says he has the keys. The girls get dressed. As we half crouch out of the tent, when they are ready, I tell Brittany to not let go of Rachel's hand no matter what. As we start to stand, I hear a noise by the fire pit. It's the father, and he has something in his hand. Are you leaving already? I say, run! As we are running, I'm behind Rachel trying to watch the sides while Derek has the front. All I can hear is everyone's desperate gasping, the sound of the underbrush crunching, and the yelling behind us. Brittany tries to stop running, to say something to me. I tell her to just keep running, but her stalking causes Rachel to stumble, and I grab her so she doesn't fall. Instead, it causes me to fall. I ate shit. I hit the ground, tits first, so hard it knocked the wind out of me. I hear Rachel yell my name, but I wheeze out to keep running. They run ahead as I try and get up, but my head is spinning. My left titty took the worst hit. I grab my chest as I try and find the mini shovel I dropped. I can't find it, so I grab a sharp rock and keep running. I feel like the forest is closing in on me, like the moonlight can't even reach me. And I think, I'm gonna die here. Finally, I see the car. Everyone is standing outside. Rachel starts screaming when she sees me. I yell to get in the car. They all dive in, and I do when I get close enough. My chest is on fire. As Derek starts the car, Rachel and Brittany scream. On my side of the car, behind us is Adam. Derek floors it, and we are gone. So it took us about 45 minutes to get to the diner gas station. Rachel was sobbing the whole way. Derek and I explained everything to them. Brittany jumps between crying, yelling, and smoking. We had to pull over because Derek got so shaken up he had to throw up. So I drove the rest of the way. I want to say that I was handling it the best, but when I look back, I think I was handling it the worst, because I forced myself to not be upset. I felt like I had to be strong for my friends, because I really thought it was the end for us all. I held Rachel's hand the whole way, and I told her, I love you, and there is no way I am going to let some creeps hurt you. I also told her that her mother was going to kill us. She was still crying, but she finally laughed. As we get to the diner, I call the Forest Services and then the police. The Rangers get there first. We tell them everything. We tell them where we think we were. I wanted to go with them to make sure they found the right place, but Rachel wanted me to stay. I managed to get everyone to eat, and the police finally showed up. What assholes. They acted like we were being dramatic teenagers and said it might have just been a prank. At the risk of being in trouble, I told them, kiss my fucking ass. After the police left, the Rangers called back. They found our site, and it had been trashed. Every tent had been ripped to shreds. Lovely. We finally head home. Derek and Rachel's parents are so pissed, and I convinced them to not tell my Nana because she's a little old lady and it would be bad for her health and stress her out. Rachel will never go camping again, and it was a while before me and Derek went again. If there is any moral to this story here, I think it would be, don't camp in the middle of nowhere. The story took place a few months back. I am a teenage boy, and my mom used to work from 2 to 10 p.m., meaning I'd be alone all day after school. We had just recently moved into a duplex, which was within walking distance of a Walmart. I would quite often go for walks, preferably at dark. I would often walk through the apartment complex parking lot, which was located pretty much right next to my place. It was about 8 p.m., and I was hungry. My mom had left me some cash in case of this, as there wasn't anything to eat in the house. It was about the time I usually went for my walk, so I figured I'd make a stop by Walmart on my journey and get a snack. I made my way to Walmart. It was dark by now, and I made my way inside. I went in and bought a bag of beef jerky and began just walking around the store, as I was bored and got lonely sitting at home all day, so I liked to get out of the house. As I walked, I eventually decided I didn't want the beef jerky anymore and threw it into one of the aisles with other items. I came to the conclusion that I wasn't going to buy anything and headed for the exit. As I was about to approach the sliding door leading to the parking lot, I heard a man say, "Excuse me." I turned around and I saw an African American man, probably in his 30s, wearing a sweatshirt and jeans. He asked me if I knew where the beef jerky I threw was. He claimed he needed it to have all items in the store back in their original places for customer satisfactory. At that time, I was not sensing anything was off. I am a teenager, and I guess I am pretty gullible, and didn't want to get into trouble. I told the man I wasn't sure, but I could go look for it and put it back where it belonged. I began to go look, and he followed. At first, he was right next to me, but eventually he slowed down and was kind of split up. I looked back and saw him behind me. I kept walking and looked back yet again, but this time he was gone. I wasn't in the mood for this shit, and I took this time to leave. As I left, I looked behind me and saw him walking the opposite direction behind me. I don't think he knew where I was, so I speed walked out of there and walked home. I looked behind me. As I walked, I never saw anyone following me. By that point, I'd suspected something was up. Nothing ever came of it, and I forgot all about it. The whole thing just strikes me as weird. I'd actually seen the guy walking around before he talked to me. Browsing in one of the aisles, the fact he knew where I put the beef jerky somewhere means he obviously seen me take it and followed me until I decided to dump it. He obviously did not work there, as he was not in uniform. He also had his phone in his hand the entire time. Although I can't really figure out what his intentions were, seeing as well it was Walmart, a very public place. Looking back, I wish I have questioned the situation more, and asked if he'd worked there, and asked if one of the employees, if they knew him. But I suppose it all worked out because I made my escape, and all is well now. If you guys have any insight as to what the hell happened, please let me know. Perhaps he was legit, and I am just a dumbass, and I am missing something. Or maybe he had other plans. To give a little background information, this started in the winter of 2012. I was 23 years old at the time and living with my dad. My mom and my brother were living in another house about 10 minutes away from us. One morning I woke up around 8 a.m. because I had an early doctor's appointment, and I went outside to see a note pinned to the windshield wiper of our car. The note said, "I'm going to kill you, scum." I kinda laughed it off. I assumed the note was from my dad, who had a habit of complaining to parents in our neighborhood about their children's shitty behavior. There were these twin boys who liked to try and catch and torture squirrels. He often marched them home by their ears to complain about them to their parents. I thought one of the parents was just being a douchebag, so my dad and I didn't bother with it too much. Later in the day, while talking to my mom on the phone, I mentioned the note to her half-heartedly in a casual way, and I was shocked by her response. She responded by emphatically warning me several times to make sure all of my windows and doors were locked, and to bring a weapon to bed with me at night. I was a bit taken aback because she'd never said anything to me like that before. She'd never even given me the good touch, bad touch talk. She reminded me at least 12 times over the course of the conversation to bring a knife or a baseball bat to bed with me and to lock my bedroom door at night. I thought she was just overreacting, so I waved her off. Then other weird things started happening. We started getting random packages and deliveries sent to our house. Bibles and Qurans, newspapers, porn flyers, pizzas, and moving trucks that we hadn't ordered. The first few times it happened, I thought it was a mistake, but as it kept happening, I came to the conclusion that somebody must be pulling a prank on us. We didn't know who it was, so there was nothing we could really do about it, but apologizing profusely to yet another confused pizza delivery man. In September of that year, I started taking a night school class with my best friend. The course went from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Monday and Wednesday night, and after the class, his mom would pick us up and drive us home. Sometime in November, his mom dropped me off from school, and I went inside and chilled on the couch for a couple of hours. I like to wind down before I go to bed a bit, or I can't sleep. I ended up falling asleep on the couch. Something woke me up abruptly at about 4 a.m. in the morning. I heard the unmistakable sound of a car tire being slashed, and it sounded like our car. What the hell is going on? We didn't have any enemies. In retrospect, this was probably a stupid thing to do, especially considering I'm a relatively small female. I'm only 5'5", and I was 23 at the time, but I grabbed a generic kitchen knife and went outside to check it out. When I got outside, I discovered immediately that I was correct. There was a man in our driveway slashing our car tires. Unwisely, I admittedly yelled, "Hey, you!" and he turned around to face me. That was when I noticed what he was slashing our tires with, an enormous hunting knife, at least 6 inches long. He looked surprised, but then defiant, and began to advance towards me with the knife slightly raised. I just froze. I didn't know what to do. He was coming at me so fast I couldn't even think. Thankfully, at that exact moment, my across-the-street neighbor, who had also heard him slashing our tires, turned on his porch light and yelled out the window, "Hey, I'm calling the cops." The man yelled back, "I don't give a fuck. Call them then." But he quickly retreated back to his car, where I could see a middle-aged woman with long brown hair waiting for him on the passenger seat. Our eyes locked, and I knew instantly that we had met before, but I couldn't quite put my finger on where or when. I just knew in my gut that I had met this woman before. They sped off into the night, and we called the cops, who said they couldn't do anything for us because they didn't know who had done it. I mean, isn't that the kind of your job, though, to find out who did it? Herp-a-derp. I called my mom to tell her what happened and to ask her if she had any idea who would have done this to us. She immediately said no, but there was something in her voice. I could just tell that she wasn't being honest. A few weeks later, I decided to go to my mom's house to spend a day or two there, determined to get some answers. As soon as I walked in the front door, I knew something was wrong. The second she saw me, she just started bawling her eyes out. She took me by the hand and sat me on the couch and explained the whole story to me, start to finish. It's necessary for me to give a little background information here. My mom is a businesswoman by trade. She was still in sales at the time, but she's also a bit of a hippy-dippy. Astrology and pot and reincarnation and Mercury is retrograding, so don't get into any arguments this week type of person. A couple of months ago, before this all started, she had ended up being referred a new client named Adrian by her weed dealer. Yes, my mom smokes weed. This is Canada. Everyone smokes here. Adrian was her dealer's girlfriend, and she was interested in buying Arbonne, so my mom invited her over to her apartment to look at some makeup samples. They started chatting a bit about a variety of topics, and my mom let it slip that her last name was Hayes. As my mom told me, Adrian had paused for a few seconds, looked at her, and then said, "Hayes? Did you used to be married to a man named Darian Hayes?" My mom answered that yes, Darian Hayes, my father, was her ex-husband. Then, shockingly, this Adrian woman had actually burst into tears, threw her arms around my mom in a hug, and began to tell her this horrific story about all the disgusting things that my dad had done to her. Apparently, she was 14 years old. She was now in her mid-30s. I would have been about 4 years old at the time. This would have happened around 1994. She had been dating a man named Andrew, who happened to be living with my dad at the time after my parents' divorce. According to Adrian, these men, her boyfriend Andrew, Andrew's twin brother Daniel, and my father, had taken turns beating her, sexually assaulting her, and then forcing her into prostitution in order to make money off of her. Eventually, they ended up selling her into child prostitution, from which she said she never recovered. At this point, I realized that this is where I'd recognized her from. My dad had been roommates with her boyfriend Andrew. and I used to see all three of them when I went over there to visit him every second weekend. I sobbed inconsolably during the whole retelling of this story, telling my mother how after this traumatic experience she had turned to drugs and alcohol to numb the pain of her abuse, and that she had been addicted to crack and alcohol off and on ever since because of what my father had done to her. My mom was shocked. She didn't know what to do. On the one hand, she knew my father to be a generous, soft-spoken, and kind person who had never lifted a finger to her or any other person, and who rarely raised his voice. But on the other hand, it seemed odd that Adrian would just happen to remember his name all these years later. If she had been lying, we didn't know who to believe. After several hours of crying and much consoling on my mother's part, Adrian finally left, and that was when the stalking began. A few days after this encounter, my mother came home from work to find Adrian's boyfriend sitting on her couch, waiting for her. He immediately told her that he was planning on killing my father, and that my father deserved to die because he was a pedophile piece of shit, and that if my mom told anybody at all, especially the cops, that he would be sure to kill me as well. He then concluded his threat by describing the layout of our living room and exactly what outfit I was wearing that day. From then on, he and/or Adrian would text or call her several times a day to threaten and taunt her, telling her that they were going to call the cops on my dad and have him thrown in prison, that they were going to have him killed, and that if she told anybody, they would hire somebody to rape and murder me. Naturally, my mother was absolutely terrified. She was from an upper middle class family who had immigrated to Canada from Germany. She had never dealt with this type of person before. She stopped eating, she couldn't sleep, and she even stopped going to work. She lost 30 pounds, and her hair started to fall out from stress. She started having panic attacks because she didn't know what to do. Later, she told me that she understood how I felt because I have an anxiety disorder that causes me to experience panic attacks. Eventually, after the night when I almost got stabbed, she decided that she had to call the cops. She couldn't take the chance that they would hurt me. She had to do something about it, and what she found out was shocking. Adrian was also known to the police. When my mom told them the story, he was so well known that they weren't even surprised to hear her story. In fact, they told her Adrian had done this exact same thing at least to a dozen other men. She would meet and blackmail men into giving her money, electronics, drugs, etc., threatening to call the cops and report them for rape if they did not. Her boyfriend, who was a dealer of other drugs other than just weed, as it turned out, would often use his drug connections to intimidate and extort the men, and for some reason he never questioned her stories of being raped, abused, and enslaved by all of the other different types of men. Adrian was a crack and heroin addict and a prostitute who would get arrested on possession and drug distribution charges. She would attempt to make deals with the police by offering them information about men who were pedophiles in exchange for less time in prison. She eventually did this so many times that the police stopped believing in her. After my mom called the cops, the whole story came undone, and Adrian and her boyfriend, thankfully, haven't bothered us since. But it's been over a year since the whole thing happened, and I'm still terrified to leave the curtains open at nighttime in case somebody is watching me. I don't think I'll ever be able to feel fully safe in this house ever again. So Adrian, let's not meet again, ever.